We have a couple of different things that we've called a meeting together today for, and I think, of course, the first thing that we have on it is the Agricultural Extension Office in Stevens Barton, and we are going to make a phone call. We believe it's Brent. Is not able to be here in person, but he does want to talk with the committee, so if it's okay, we're going to call him in.
That's all we have on the today. He's the director of the Virginia Extension Office. Hey, Blake. Hey, so you're live, and can everybody hear him?
Yeah. This is Jason Roach. I'm the chair of the committee. We're going to go ahead and let you talk to us about your agenda item, and if we need to adjust volume or do something from there, we'll do what we need to do. Okay?
That sounds good. And me and Emily, we'll just go back and forth. I know she's got some information too, but I'll play the groundwork. I know she's got us some information, and I've got some information from the tenant, and we'll sort of lay that out, and then we'll take any questions.
Okay.
Y'all ready, or you let me know when you're ready?
Yes, sir. We've got the meeting rolling. We've already called roll. We have all 7 members present. We're ready to hear your presentation.
Okay. Appreciate it. I appreciate everybody coming to me to hear what we have, what we planned, and what we think is a really good idea for the community. First, again, I'm Blake Ramsey. I'm the UT Extension Agent and County Director in Hawkins County, and then Emily was there first. And Emily Barton, she does, she's 4-H development. But I was confronted or brought to my attention that the space there in the corner next to the, I guess we got the barber shop right outside of us, so it's the one there in the corner, John Lawson, which owns the property. He said, hey, I've got an opening here. Just thought about the 4-H. At first he said, I thought about the kids, a bigger meeting space, because he's seen too, we've got a bigger conference room and a lot better office than we had before. But our conference room, when we have 4-H events or master big events, we used to have to still go somewhere. We've got, over 20 people. And a lot of times we've got bigger groups, which is a good thing. 4-H it's really grown. We've got a lot of kids interested. So that space is big enough for us to be able to utilize that. The Johnson comes to me after calling me on the phone and said, Blake, I'd like to help out the youth and try to help. He said, I will cut this rent essentially in half. It's $600 a month. And he said, I would do that just, if you all could utilize it and stuff. He said, so we got to thinking, hey, yeah, that'd be great for 4-H and for Center Science, which they do canning classes, cooking classes. She also does co-parenting. Anybody that has a divorce in the county has to take the co-parenting class. And, so she would utilize it as well as agriculture, 4-H, and TNSF, which is a nutrition program, and they go to all the schools, do nutrition programs, bring rich lunch, which is most of the county. She can come and do programs, and she has to cut up vegetables and prepare stuff. And she does teaching classes also for adults. She does like diabetes classes, how to prepare meals since you got diabetes. But anyway, there's a lot of things that it could be utilized with for the community coming in. So I thought about that as well as just not only 4-H. And then we got to talking and thinking we did have a big need for a commercial kitchen because I actually used to live in Treadway over Hancock County, and we actually had one there called Treadway School. We had one. It was utilized a lot, but it got shut down, so there's really nothing in this area as far as a commercial kitchen. And a commercial kitchen has to be used. If you're going to resell a product, it has to be, prepared in a commercial kitchen. So we have anybody jams and jellies or beans or canned anything. They're supposed to be used for resale. So as well, we've been working a little bit on as far as trying to find a place for a farmer's market, and this will really gel that with help as far as them to be able to actually sell at a actual farmer's market. So that could be utilized by the community. We do have people coming in asking about that pretty regularly. We've been talking and talked to a couple of commissioners about how to regulate that, and that'll come with time on how, do we set this by hourly rates on how many people use it, so we just don't get, people coming in there and doing 2 or 3 jars just for personal use. This is more of a business type thing for resale. So we would have to filter that, but it will be a way to get that. And there's plenty of counter space in there. There's also gas lines that are up in the attic that from Hawkins County Gas that we can tap into once we get grants. And I'll let Emily talk a little bit about that. But once we get grants to buy some of the stove and freezer and refrigerator, that we can use those gas lines. Also, we have to be vented like a stove, and that's something that I talked to Jonathan about, and that can be run, and the gas company would install that. Won't be any problem. So everything's there. It's got a commercial sink already there, but we just have to get a grant to buy some of the other items, and we make them movable. So if we need to move from that space to another space, we could. But Johnson did also say that he would do a 5-year lease at $600 a month for that space, which is really good. Especially if we can get this up and going, and the next year get everything in place, start small, get enough where we can actually use it, and then grow to where we get bigger, where we can do more things. But get the commercial kitchen started. I think we can get that done pretty quick, but we have to have space to be able to apply for those grants. But Jonathan's been good waiting on me. I've been updating on how we contacted people to see if this would be an opportunity. But I think as well, there's a space there, and if the county ever wanted to use that space, we could do a calendar, keep up with that, like on the computer, and we could just schedule around somebody using a commercial kitchen. Also, you utilize that space for 4-H SDS, or the county needed it to use it, because it is a very nice space. Also got the key to that, and I know a couple commissioners looked at it. If anybody else is interested, I think too, Emily's got a video there if anybody wants to see it. She did a walkthrough of it. But sort of on my end, I thought it would be a great thing for the community and too. I think we do need to charge something, because we'll have to have somebody come in there to clean that. So that would have to get back as far as the cleaning fee, and I think that will respect the space more and things. There's a fee associated with it to get back toward the rent and toward like cleaning of it. But I won't ramble on anymore. I guess I'll let Emily talk a little if you have questions. That's just sort of how I was approached with this opportunity. So I thought we'd ask that. I think something that don't just come along every day to be able to get a space like that for that amount of money. And I think we could really utilize it, and I think it'd be great for the community.
And Blake, while you were talking, I had the video rolling, so a lot of things you were saying, they were seeing as you were saying it. So that was helpful for sure on talking points. You got most of mine. I had a little bit more on the grant process, the certification process. We've had those answers come in as well. So we know that we have the Fazzola grant that is through UT. We would apply for it as UT. It is an up to $10,000, and then we have another couple of smaller grants that are at $1,000 a piece. And we have some rainy day 4-H money that we could put towards some of the equipment and kitchen items. So we could get within, we know the Fazzola grant opens after Christmas, and with a deadline of early mid-spring, so we could start putting in for those grants, know by the end of the summer what we have, and hopefully be starting to put the kitchen together by fall next year, with the biggest chunk of that money, and knowing that there's new grant money for those food and nutrition programs coming along all the time. Our 4-H and FCS programs both find quite a bit of financial aid for those type projects. And so the equipment to get the kitchen running, once we know we've got a building, we can start that process really quick and have within 18 months some things on the ground to use. We've got some different things from Bradley County Extension, who has a cannery, of course, Unicoi County, Mountain Harvest. That's where we're sending our folks right now when they ask about canning for resale or bacon for resale. And we know this will not be near as large as what they have. It won't have all those bells and whistles that facility has, but it does have that starting point for canning and for baking and commercial cooking. So if you wanted to cater or something like that, you have those ability to do so. We've looked at kind of their price points and how they charge, comparative to what we're thinking, and then open to how you all feel about should there be a charge at all, knowing that there'll be cleaning fees. Things will tear up occasionally with some rainy day funds to fix things as needed for that. So I'm open to questions and thoughts that you all have on the
What is the
process.
square footage? It
About-
looked like pretty good.
About 2,000 square feet.
Yeah, I thought it looked like it probably was. And it's nice.
Yeah, it's a nice facility. There used to be a company in there called Mixed Nutrition, and they went in and did a really nice,
And it's adjacent to what we,
it's,
Got
well, you
them
got
a couple
UT
years ago.
Extension Office, you got the barber shop, and it kind of sits in the corner back there.
yeah,
And it's, I mean.
it's on 66, but
Yes.
adjacent to what we, well, heard
Yes,
about
yes.
a year or so ago, a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And I mean, and the only reason that they're not in business now, the guy that opened the business got cancer and was unable to keep the business open, so.
And we wanted, I know we talked briefly about what other counties are doing. What have you came up with since then about the charging or possible charge?
So I have looked at Mountain Harvest, and they have packages. They have an hourly rate at $25 an hour for when you book to do it that way. They have packages depending on what you're using, how long, so they do some monthly packages as well. They have some half day and full day charges as well. And thinking from the management standpoint, setting something for, most of the time canning or cooking, you need a 4-hour slot, for the smallest of things, or a full day. So in my opinion, and I'm open to all the suggestions you all have, some of those half day, full day rates seems to be the most manageable opportunity without getting into watching it by hour. You can kind of watch a half day and a full day pretty close and be good. I know, depending on where we set that, because space itself is going to be funded through county government and those different opportunities that funds come in. So if we set it at 50 for a half and 100 for a day, or if we adjust that depending on what the cleaning fees seem to look like for a month, and go from there.
So you feel like there's gonna be quite a few younger people start using it, or maybe mixed, older people?
It's going to be a mix. Our FCS programming for canning classes have quite a wide range. We have quite a few folks that come in and take maybe a newer mixed canning class, or a canning class they've not canned before. And then we have a lot of that 25 to 45 age group that are learning for the first time, always wanted to learn but don't have someone that could teach them. And then we have a lot of folks that are farmers marketing now and are wanting to resell the abundance that they have. And so Susan was telling me she'll have a class of 10 to 12, and at least 1 to 2 of every class are asking how that process works, the resale process.
So if you guys are charging a rate for half day or a whole day, and the county is paying the cost for the facility itself, what would be the use of that money?
So we would, in my mind, send that money either monthly or quarterly over to the county to put towards the cleaning service bill or utilities. And then if there is an abundance, let's hold it for the maintenance of equipment, since it will be county use.
Is there even a mechanism to do that, for them to just give us money?
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be set up through accounting, just like, when we had the park and received fees for the shelters.
Okay.
So it could go into an account that you could keep up with and see how much money's there, how much is being paid out even.
And I think it would be important for us to make sure that if that happens, that money is designated strictly for 4-H, and that nobody else can touch it. Because if that's something that you guys are not giving to us, but if that's something that you're handing over to us as a result of the fees that you're charging for your facility. What I don't want other people to think that we have access to that money for other things. If that's the case, if it's being used for that purpose, I'd like to hope that we make sure everybody knows this is their fund.
It would just be an expense line item and an income line item.
And we would get an expense report yearly.
It would show up probably on the monthly financials drawing.
Yeah, monthly.
Yeah, and
And it would be
then,
part of the budget that
Yeah.
would show that,
Kind of like a reserve fund.
right.
And so, I'm sorry, go ahead, Blake.
And so we wouldn't want to run that through let's say county, go to a county account. We won't want to take that and that's the deposit, then have to give it back to you. We need to just give that money, have that, and give that straight deal on how we exactly do that. But it'll make a mess, I think, if we put that through, run it through UT, if that makes sense.
So in that event, who would be in charge of booking it? Because if the money is going straight to the county, then would the county, that's gonna be a Sarah Davis thing, and is that something that Sarah needs to take control of?
Yeah, that's something we might be able to do. I'll need to talk to our financial director there, University of Tennessee, just on how we need to handle that best. I'm just thinking, if we bring it through the county and then they're seeing us paying out a check back to the Hawkins County government, Hawkins County government, how that would work. I really need to probably talk to her, just to see the best way to do it. I know it probably can be done, but yeah, that is a point as far as every time we get $50, we really need to have that safe location and then be able to deposit that. That's something that we need to check to see what the best way would be to handle that. But I still think it needs to stay, to the county, and keep that separate.
Could the checks not be
But we
written
have to look into, see what the best
to
way to
Hawkins
do that
County?
is.
Could the checks not just be written to Hawkins County, y'all just be the collector of them?
And this could be something that, we
Yeah,
just have to check with audit.
we just.
However, audit tells us to set it up is what we're gonna have to do. We could sit here and say,
Because
we
it
could
would
do
be
this
hard
and
for you,
that,
yeah.
and then it wouldn't fly with them. So,
Well, it would be hard for you to schedule, because they're gonna be using it for 4-H and different things, so it needs to be,
well, and we've talked about having a calendar that we can share,
We
just
can
having a
easily
calendar
share Outlook calendars. as far as
that we can both schedule things and both be able to see it at any time. And we have discussed this. I guess really, and we can work all that out. It's kind of trial and error when you start something like that. We just need the blessing of the building, if we could work on that.
Yeah, so, as far, I think it's a great program, and I think it's a great project, and I think that, for the types of programs you guys want to run out of the facility, I'm all in favor of that. Really, it's not a matter of if I think it's a good project or not. It's just, can we do it in a way, it's like you said, Ms. Davis, according to audit, so that we're delegating out responsibilities for the financial resources according to whatever direction audit gives us. And it seems like it might be a little confusing at first for 4-H to be running it, but the county to be accepting the money for it, and who has the responsibility for collecting, and who has the responsibility for receiving, and who has the responsibility for housing the money. And I'm saying that as a school system employee, because I know that's what we deal with all the time. So the answer for me is I'm fine with it. It's just I'd like to have a little bit more clear direction on the logistics of how that would work. And that, so when we're talking about money, I am in favor of sending the project to the budget committee, and then that would give you guys time to, to figure out the logistics of how to control that money and that finance that way, because that's really a budget committee question more than it is a public buildings question.
Well, and truthfully, so it's just a matter of, it's not a question of whether the county pays or the county gets the money, right? Because you guys don't want the fees to go into your account. It's going to go to Hawkins County. It's just a matter of, do they deliver the check to them and then bring it to us?
The only question I've got about is procedure. It's,
Right.
yeah, that's the only question, and I just want to make sure it's done right. And I know you guys do too, so.
Well, this is a money situation anyway, so I'll make a motion that we send it to the budget committee to go through them first.
Roger that. So Commissioner Thacker has made a motion to approve 4-H's request. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Gibson has seconded that motion. Of course, the floor is now open for discussion. Are there any other questions before we vote?
I think we are all in pretty much consensus here that there should be some type of fee for people who use it. Yeah, I know that was one thing that we talked about it, or you just brought up, if there would be a fee for anyone. I think we're pretty much in consensus that there should be some type of minimal or fee for maintenance of effort or all those type of things. Is it something that in the more long term that you could see this becoming self-funded? I mean, $10,000 isn't that much of an amount that you get for as far as like the annual type deal.
If you break that out across, it will depend on, have to see what are folks willing to book it at, because we may set a price that they're not willing to pay.
Exactly.
So I think we could get to, a quarter or a halfway point pretty easily, but that full amount, depending on how many folks start to come in, the advertising of what we have, making sure those folks are using it correctly so we can keep the permits and things that will need to be to keep it certified. That'll be time will tell. I do think we could get to 50 to half or a quarter to half though.
Okay.
And there's more and more legislation being passed that if you're doing farmers markets, you've got to have, you got to be served, you got to have the food has to be in a professional kitchen. Right. It has to be refrigeration when they're preparing it. There's a lot of stuff going on right now because farmers markets are popping up here and there and everywhere. We are in the process of looking at a farmers market in this area, as more people start coming into the farmers markets, your health inspectors are going to be there looking at who's selling what. Now you can just kind of do what you want to because it's in First Baptist Church parking lot. And if we get a official farmers market, then it's going to go to the point where they will be checking on it. And so I think we're going in the right direction. And the one that you talked about over in Hancock County did a tremendous amount. The only thing happened to them, it was totally grant funded, and the grant ran out, and they didn't have any way to sustain it. So, and it was a 3-year grant.
In terms of the logistics and procedure of all this, if when it comes before the budget committee, Ms. Davis and if you guys could maybe talk and just come to us and say, here's what we think is going to be best, right? I don't want us to micromanage the procedure, right? Just so that we have a procedure in place, you guys can work that out. In my opinion, I'm just going to vote, but that's kind of in my head. Just so that we know that there is a procedure.
We have an auditor here today, and we could even speak to her today. We just didn't go that far before we found out if we could get the billing or not, so.
That's fine. I think
we will just have to do whatever audit tells us we have to do.
Yeah. Well, and to Mr. Thacker's point, that really is a budget committee kind of conversation to have anyway. But just something to think about as we present it to the budget committee, what that's going to look like. And
I don't think we need to let that 2,000 square foot space get gone.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's the key, because he can rent it for twice that real quick.
Well, and to that point, for the community's purpose, this is something that anybody in Hawkins County can use for their benefit at a very low rate. It's something that's going to be accessible to our community to have, access to equipment they wouldn't have otherwise for a very reasonable rate. So we're really doing something so that the community can have access to something. I think I don't see anything wrong with that at all.
As well
What kind
as
of advertising would you have?
So UT Extension as a whole does have a website that we can put it there. That's connected to the county website. So those two places it could be there. Social media happens to be our best spread. So those situations can have connected to ours, connected to the county page as well. And then just, I found really quickly word of mouth around here gets out quick. Newspaper and different opportunities. Radio works with us very closely as well.
Well, I know, people that live like in Beach Creek or Stanton Valley, for example, or Fort Valley over that area in your district. Some of those people might not even know about it unless it was
Well, they do, I don't know whether y'all are aware or not, but they do a weekly radio cast with WRGS, which has a big following. They do it, I don't know what that time slot is, it's.
So 8 a.m.
Yeah, 8 a.m. and everybody's either going to school or going to work or going somewhere. And it has a big following, and so that's a good way to get it out. I'm sure Jeff would be receptive to helping us out, as Tessa would be receptive to helping us out. So I think getting the word out, and then if the kids use it, you know, if they go home and tell their parents, and I think that's something, you know, we're going to be teaching kids skills that nobody's teaching them now, and I think that's a big plus for us.
Absolutely.
I think once word gets out, we'll find out very quickly this space, that we need more space too, so.
Well, when we talk about celebrating, you know, heritage and being Appalachian, East Tennessee folks, with our Heritage Days just now closing down, to me, this is a way to bring some of that back and really get to our roots, because this is who we were at one point. So I'm certainly in favor of it. I think if we get some questions answered, I think it's a great plan. Does anybody else have any other discussion?
Can I say something, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman? Could the motion include that we could put money in a budget amendment for the budget committee to consider for the lease of the building? In that way, we could go ahead and get the lease before the commission in November, so we could start December the 1st. So if the budget committee is going to make the decision on whether to fund it at this amount, we could do a budget amendment resolution for the amount right now, so we don't have to wait another month.
So-
We can't pay the rent until we have funds in the budget to do it.
So for the committee, there's two ways you can do that. Mr. Thacker and Mr. Gibson can just agree to fix that motion, or we can move to amend it. It's up to you all.
Yeah, Sarah, if you want to, you might buy a motion up.
To include
To
a budget amendment for the budget
A budget
committee.
amendment for the budget committee to hear.
We don't, I mean, in my opinion, we don't want to lose this space.
Exactly. I agree with that wholeheartedly. We don't want to lose that facility.
Yes, before we vote, however, I'd like for you to read that motion back so that everybody knows what we're voting.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the 4-H request to lease the building and send the budget amendment to the budget committee for approval.
Okay, anybody?
Do you want to put a dollar amount with the budget amendment on my estimates?
Well, I think the budget committee can do that.
I do have a question, and it may be more for Blake. Blake, do we need that to say UTTSU extension and not 4-H?
Yeah, they do a UT, TSU extension off in the county, yeah.
So, you need to
Probably.
leave it.
We do, I think we do need an amount to be able to put an amendment.
So the projected amount for this budget year is $6,440, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So it's a difference of $4,480.
Yeah, and then it would have to be reheard. It would have to be
Part of the budget.
included in the budget for next year.
Yes, sir.
But for the remainder of this year,
Yeah.
and where
We
would
need
that?
to do a budget amendment. It comes from the general fund. It would have to come from the general fund.
That would be until July 1.
So Mr. Thacker, Mr. Gibson, are you good with that?
I'll give it that.
Would the committee like to do it that way, or would you like to approve the amendment? It's up to you. We're good with just changing it. Would you like? Okay. All right. So you've heard the motion that's on the floor. If there's no other questions, we will go ahead and ask Ms. Davis to call roll.
Tom Kern,
Yes.
Nancy Barker. Yes. Robbie Palmer,
Yes.
John Gibson,
Yes.
Jason Roach,
Yes.
Josh Gillum,
Yes.
Charlie Thacker.
Yes.
Motion carries 7 yes.
Thank you, Blake.
Hey, thank you all. We appreciate it. Yeah, I think it'll be a great thing for the community, sure.